Hey guys, I want to thank you for downloading this brand new episode from the podcast C's Get Degrees. For any updates or any brand new episodes, go visit Apple iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music today. And for all the swag lovers, go visit www.etsy.com/shop/the Chad M. Smith for any brand new swag coming from both the podcast and CH brands. And for any speaking engagements for anything, go visit www.thechadmsmith.com. Once again, guys, thank you very much and enjoy this brand new episode. Hey guys, welcome to the podcast C's Get Degrees. I'm going to butcher his name twice, but I have Kyle Spyrides on the other end of it. To me, it looks like Spyrides, but tell everyone how you pronounce it, man.
Spyrides, but that's it usually does get Spyrides.
So I'm like, I know I'm going to butcher it, so I'm going to apologize right away, but he's jumping on the pod here all the way from, I know Australia, but where are you at?
So Perth, Western Australia. So it's the Wild West.
He's in the Wild West, man. It is 9:30 p.m. our time, and it's actually 9:30 or 10 o'clock a.m. your time, right?
Yeah.
So you're a day ahead?
Exactly. Yeah. I'm in the future, mate. I'm telling you, it looks bright.
All right. Well, we were chit-chatting a little bit, and obviously he's got one hell of a story, and we're going to go down that route, but we were chatting about how good times make soft people and how bad times make people become more fruitful. We'll just say it that way. So get in depth, man. You're on the show. I can sit back and relax and be quiet. I'm going to let you carry it for a little bit, man. All right.
So all talk away. Passing the baton. Here we go. Hope I can run with it. We're talking about, I guess, hard times create hard people, like strong people. I think that's whether it's society or whether it's in your own life, like the challenges that you have, they can actually be looked at as opportunities. And, if you look at the book, The Obstacle is the Way by Marcus Aurelius, I mean, that talks about that. Many different people talk about that, and they talk about how a lot of people become successful in tough times, and because as things shift and change, opportunities, show themselves. And I think it all comes back down to your principles and your values and who you are and working on that. Like Chad, you're talking about how your personal development over the last year and me as well. I've had a big personal development, and you kind of look at your principles and your values and you go, these are the things that are going to carry me through any hard times. And like you were saying, in the corner of the ring, bring it on. Let's get through this. So, if I look at my grandfather, he was born in 1927, Great Depression. He shot bunnies in the wild to eat food. He slept on his veranda, like the outside area for most of his life. Was born on a kitchen table. He had a very unique sort of life experience. And that man, lived till 91 with rarely any health implications. He had no surgeries, no vaccinations, no medications. He was pretty much clean the whole way through. And he lived a healthy, happy life right up till the last few months where he passed away a couple of years ago. And, if I look at the lessons that he taught me, it all came from the challenges, or, other people might call it opportunities. Those opportunities allowed him to really make the man, who he was going to become, make him a stronger man. So, yeah, I think it's so important, the perspective that we take on opportunities. And if we live in a mindset of apathy and fear porn and fear mongering and, anything, everything kill me, you can't actually move, you can't grow, you can't create, it's not a creative state. And I think our world, the people, humanity, our earth needs people that are going to jump into creative spaces and see what they can, what they can bring to the world.
And I'm gonna add one more thing on here. So like when people go through tough times and they see, and I'm gonna use for me it was addiction, and so the addiction brought mental health, but there's a two kicker to that. So like that was the initial big push. The one that tipped me over the edge was watching my grandfather pass away and watching my cousin pass away, and then also there was cancer in the family. I'm just gonna keep her name out of it. She knows who it is.
Yeah.
Just to kind of keep it neutral. Those perspective completely drastically changed my outlook on life. One of them was because of a disease came in, either it was, alcoholism turned into Parkinson's or whatever it was. He was depressed because he was restricted movement, so he couldn't provide, is what it was. So like the depression overtook everything, and the Parkinson's took. Now on the other end of it, one had a stroke a long time ago and then had another stroke. So pretty much fought his way back. Then the embolism came and that's what overtook him again.
Yeah.
What I'm looking at is the alertness of knowing that why are you just, and I'm going to use this for example, like why are people just working 40 hours a week, turn the TV on and sit on the couch when like something like this occurs and says, hey guys, we can pass away tomorrow. So what are you doing now to try to gain your freedom away from your employer or whatever it is to where you can truly live your life full to your potential or to your, like what you define freedom or what I define freedom. So like you have control over your schedule.
Yeah, exactly.
And the light bulb went off and everyone's like, why are you doing this? Why are you making these moves? Why are you doing that? Well, because of that light bulb. And I'm like, I don't want to be a statistic that just sits on the couch and doesn't change their life.
Yeah. It's so powerful, man. And you look at it, I was listening to a podcast the other day talking about how in the 1800s, death was kind of propped up in society and regarded and really like a big important part. And sex was kind of like the thing that wasn't spoken about, was covered up, where now it's definitely like flipped, if you know what I mean. Like in podcast, people in podcasts talking about how, sex is propped up, like sex is like, everything. It's like, it's everywhere you look. And then, death is kind of like shielded and hidden and kind of, it's not like a valuable, like sending someone away and tradition spoken about and discussed. It's kind of like that taboo topic we don't want to talk about. But, if you look at so many successful people, they have that in their mind. They have that awareness. They have that understanding. And it literally breaks you out of the shackles of, whether that's that 40-hour week, whether that's the addiction. We've all had things that we've attached ourselves to for whatever emotional reasons, because they were part of our identity, whatever it is. But when you look at, hey, I've got this moment, this is all I've got, and I don't know what's going to happen in the next moment. It breaks those shackles because you go, well,
And for me, my term is all in or nothing when it comes to that, because like I was saying earlier, yes, I went through divorce that caused some more issues on the addiction, whatever that put some pressure on that. But I look at it as I'm in between, and I'm going to use the term in between. So my first marriage, family, all that stuff's done. I don't want to say I'm stalled. I'm not stalled. The good Lord's making me wait right now. Okay. So I'm looking at it going, this is a perfect timing to grab the ball and run, because you get all the leg work, the foundation, all that set up correctly, how he wants you to set it up. And then you run forward with your family. So like for me, this is where I look at it. Like I tell everyone straight out there, like, why are you working so hard? Why are you doing that? It's like, I don't have any kids right now. I don't have a wife. I don't have a girlfriend. Yeah. So this is my only shot to do it.
Exactly. Seize the moment.
Yeah. And and the other thing I'm going to add into this and you get it too. Like you're listening to podcasts. I think you have your own one too, correct?
I've got my own daily vlogs at the moment.
Yeah. And, what happens is in the saying in this, and we're going to get in your story here quick, but the saying is true, where it's like, do everything quiet. Like, don't tell your family, tell certain ones. Like, your family's not going to be on board until it's like a year or two later.
Yeah.
Trust
Till
me.
they see the success.
Yeah. And I think I launched mine May last year, and they're like, why are you doing all this? What are you doing? And all of a sudden, like, the outside cousins are reaching in saying, okay, he's having fun with this, and let it go. But like, I'm 10 months, 11 months into it. Now they're starting to see, okay, hey, now we're seeing that you're in it. It's not just fly by night type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now they're supporting, but it took a long time to get that way. But and the thing I was going to get at is keep it quiet. Like, yes, you're happy being on podcasts. Yes, you're excited. It's something fun to be in. But like, the grunt work of laying your hard work down, the hustling, the behind the scenes, staying up all night. Like, I will put on Snapchat, but like once in a while I will post publicly, but the bulk of it I post privately.
Yeah.
Because they don't need to know what you're doing, unless it's like a Friday where it's like, hey, I stayed up 3 days this week trying to boom, boom, boom. But like, I'm thinking like you is, we get so routine based that we don't even notice.
Yeah.
And you're smiling because you get it.
Yeah, you get into those flow states, and I'll be honest, like, you fall out of them sometimes, and you kind of go back into things that aren't serving you so well, and you got to get yourself back up there and get yourself back up there. It's an eternal kind of boxing match. You know what I'm saying?
And I'm chuckling on that because, like we were saying, that this is my first time with the new shift change, and dude, I am losing my fucking mind because I'm used to a different shift with the schedules and all that for a year and a half, and I'm one day and going, okay, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah.
Because I'm off the routine. This is the routine I wanted in a long, like I prayed for and all that stuff. But like, I finally came to a point where like, dude, this week's not a mess, but it's an adjustment week to where give me the week after, whatever. Like, I'll slowly get into my groove and get back into it. So, but no, hey man, let's jump in your story because people tend to not like me talk all the time. And I'm going to joke around with saying that, like, all my listeners love the stories, man. So,
awesome.
I'm going to shut up and be unselfish here and let you take care of the notes I have on my end is abuse, physical, mental, all that video that you sent, plus living streets, chance of staying alive. And the 3 words that I'm going to put on this podcast and 3 words that stuck to me is decide your destiny.
Awesome. Let's start with there.
So go ahead, man. Explain the decide your destiny, and then you can either backtrack on that or do whatever, man. It's like I said, we are freestyling this, so go right ahead.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you for creating the space, and appreciate you letting me in. So decide your destiny, that came from, the actual moment came from sitting down with my grandfather on his couch. He designed his house, and the sun was kind of hitting the side of his face, and he just turned to me and looked me in the eyes. And I was 18 at the time, and he said, decide your destiny. And 18-year-old, I said, what do you mean? And he said, decide your destiny. I went, huh? What are you saying, Clivey? And he said, and he had like this boyish kind of grin, like this elation inside of him. And he said, make sure whatever you do in your life that you decide your destiny. And I'd love to say that I grabbed that bit of wisdom and I took it on board and I ran with it, but that's not the case. Over the years and different times in my life, that kind of quote kept hitting my ears. And around 2020, I really started adopting that and started collating all the wisdom, all the gifts that I'd been given from my grandparents for those many years, and all the obstacles I've faced, and putting it into a book and start writing that book, because that book was going to be really my sort of beacon, my guide, like the direction for me. And to backtrack, I was originally born in South Africa, Johannesburg. First few years of my life, I grew up, I was raised in a pub with my South African granny, and my mum was an international model. And so she would travel to a location, and then she'd have a contract, and that contract would extend. So I spent a lot of time in this pub. And eventually my mum came to Australia. She met a man in Australia, and they brought me over to Sydney, Australia. And I was about 2.5 at the time. I walked into my grandparents' house, and that's the grandfather I was just talking about. And I walked in, and my grandmother, my Australian grandmother, saw me, and she said, I had this, she repeats it, and I called her yesterday. She repeats the story all the time. She said she had this overwhelming feeling from God that she was going to be important in my life. She could see this look in my eyes, like this lost boy look, like he was looking around at all these Australians going, who are these strange people? These aren't my family, you know? And she just said she had this feeling all through her body. And, you know, the amazing thing is that it's true. You know, 14 years, when I was 14, you know, I was kicked out of home. I was on the streets, and I had to work out where I was going to go. And I knew that there was one place I could go. It was my Australian grandparents. And, you know, I skipped a couple of trains, caught a train down there, walked to their house, 2 a.m. in the middle of the night, knocking on their door. And they come down, you know, with their robes, and they go, you know, trying to say, who's that? Who's at our door? And they welcomed me in, man. They welcomed me in with open arms. And they really have been the angels in my life. You know, I've been so lucky. You know, I often say I've had opportunities, you know, otherwise known as challenges. And, you know, I've had a lot of luck in my life because these people were angels. And during that time, you know, obviously kicked out of home, some challenges there. And I had a few deaths in the family. You know, my cousin, who was like an older brother to me back in South Africa, he was murdered. And my grandfather in South Africa, he passed away just 8 months later. And I was dealing with all that sort of stuff in high school and going through that emotion. And I was getting into fights in school, and I was getting into fights outside of school. And I was really not going down a good path. You know, it didn't look like it was going to end well for me. And, you know, my grandparents were always there. So I would come home, and my grandmother, she would, as soon as I would open the door, I'd touch the doorknob, she'd jump up. You know, this 70-year-old woman would jump up, and she'd come to the front door, and she'd just go, Kyle, how was your day? You know, like, and ask me 101 questions and tell me how much she loved me. And, you know, typical teenager at that time, doing all that emotion, I would just escape to my room and just kind of, you know, get out of the interaction as soon as I could. But she was a counselor. So she was a counselor for most of her life. And so she really knew what she was doing. And she was just trying to create the space like you're creating the space now, you know, and she was just communicating to me all the time. Then eventually I started talking to them, and I started going into their room, you know, in the morning and the evening, and chatting to them and talking about problems I had in my life and issues, and tearing things apart and putting them back together. And they were just so amazing at listening. You know, they would really listen. They wouldn't give me much advice like straight away. And then they'd listen until I finished my whole story. And then they would, you know, give me some advice. But they were amazing for me. So I kept going along. And then I about 2 months out of school, I got really ill, got really, really sick. And I went to the kitchen one night to get some ice, and I collapsed on the ground. And I was conscious, and I was laying there for about, you know, it felt like 20 minutes. I kept getting more and more sick. I went to the doctor. Doctor said, look, I think you've got gastro. Went home, took the tablets, vomited them straight up. That's when I knew there was a real issue. And chatter was coming out both ends, mate. So I was losing weight like it was nothing. And you know, I got more and more sick, and eventually my grandmother took me to my uncle. And my uncle is a chiropractor, but he has a lot of understanding in like viruses and different sort of things. And he had a look at me, and he said, you know, you've got a virus. You know, and I was just walking down the hallway. He said, take him to the doctor. And if the doctor doesn't take him to the hospital, you take him to the hospital. He's seriously ill. So off I went to my doctor. And you know, this was this Chinese doctor. You know, he'd been in hospital 10 years earlier. He was a very nice doctor. He actually gave me a book at one point titled Hope, and it had all these beautiful landscapes and these quotes in it. So he was like more than just a doctor, you know what I mean? And he looked at the tips of my fingers. He grabbed my fingers, and he said, you see these red dots? And I said, yeah. He said, you've got a virus eating a hole into your bug. You know, you've got a virus so you got a virus on your heart. That virus is eating a hole into your heart. So I was rushed off to the hospital and taken into ICU. And the cardiologist came over to me and said, Kyle, we're going to put you to sleep now. I'm just going to put this pipe down your throat, and you're going to go to sleep. Now, emotionally, this sounds very hectic, but I was so sick and so out of it that it didn't register. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yep, that sounds sweet. All right, no worries. Pipe down the throat. And the cardiologist spoke to my mother, and he said, look, he's got about, with what he's coming into hospital with, there's about a 33% chance he's going to survive. But to be honest, I don't think he's going to make it through the night. We want to operate. We need your consent, but we don't know if he's going to make it through the operation. So my mother called my stepfather, the person that kind of brought us into Australia. He was living in Ireland at the time. And he had a lot of, natural health sort of understanding and knowledge, and she trusted him, even though they were divorced. And she called him, and he said, to give me all the information, and she told him, and he said, look, I personally think he's too weak to operate, but that's your decision. You're there. You have to make that, And so they didn't operate. I woke up about a week later, and we have Wheat Bix over here in Australia. So I had, a bowl of Wheat Bix. That's the Weetabix. That's the cereal of choice. I had a bowl of that, vomited on my nightgown, my hospital gown, and that was my first experience straight out of the hospital, the coma. And then a couple of hours later, my stepdad was there. So he'd flown over from Ireland, and he told me, this is the situation. You've got this 3-centimeter bug eating a hole into your heart. And, they want to operate, but what they have to do is they have to cut a big chunk of your heart off. You have to have this metal attachment. You're going to have to be on these heavy medications. This is how your life's going to be implicated. And I was 18 at the time. So I was like, geez, I had big hopes of playing rugby, international rugby for the South African rugby team, the Springboks. I had all these fantasies, and so that was pretty confronting. He said, look, I want you to be informed. So this is a different avenue we can take. And, this is probably where the story takes a turn for many of your listeners, depending on what you believe or how open you are. But, this is my truth. So this is another option. It's called the Alkaline diet. And basically what it is that you do a juice fast and you starve the bug out. So you drive the bug out. So the bug's got no sustenance, and you basically kill the bug off. And he told me how it works, and he said everything. He said, here you go. This is this diet's plan that we can go on, or here's the surgery. You can sign the dotted line now and you can have the surgery. And to be honest, at the time, all I knew was, everything around rugby. So it was lots of protein and lots of weights. That's pretty much all my life was. So I didn't know much about this whole natural health sort of stuff. And I just went, look, I trust you as a man. I really trust you. You've always been there for me in my life. Do you believe this can work? He said, yes, I believe it can work. I said, all right, let's give it a go. So he got me to write out all my foods that I was loving at the time. So I loved it. In Australia, we got this place called a Porto burger, and you get this triple cheese chicken, like cheeseburger. It's amazing. So I was writing all this stuff down. I was going, sweet. Ward, my stepfather, he's going to get me some of these things, like, some food before I start this diet. And he goes, no, Kyle, no. The whole point of that is so you can sweat it out of your system, mate, because you're going to be on a hectic diet for 6 weeks. And so I found that pretty cruel. And then he handed me, it was rough, man. And then he handed me a beetroot juice, and I had a sip, and I went, oh my God, like instant regret. Like, I can't do this. Anyway, so he handed me juices. I had basically only juice and salads. I went from probably about 92 kilos of pure muscle over the 6 weeks to about 75 kilos. So I lost an enormous amount of weight. And I had my vitamins. I was doing visualization over my heart. I was like being educated up on the heart, learning where the valves were, what valves I need to repair. And I was putting my fingers over the heart and saying, heal. I was not confident doing it publicly. I was doing it in the shower. I had my grandmother give me meditation tapes, a lot of peaks and valleys. That's all I remember, peaks and valleys. So, I had all that in my corner. Now, granted, Chad, this is a complex sort of decision to take, to try and heal yourself naturally while you're in a medical institution. So I had half my family saying, what am I doing? Like, why do I think I can take my health in my own hands? I had my cardiologist telling me, like, we need to operate. Every second you delay, you could die. So, by no means am I advising this direction. It was just the direction I took in my life. And, I had nurses starting to, like, try to take my vitamins out of my my cupboard and throw it in the bin, So I was totally, I was very naive at that age. I thought every policeman's good, every doctor's good, every fireman's good, So I kind of got a rude shock. And we had one meeting with our cardiologist, and we said, all right, what size does the bug have to get down till it's not an issue? And he wouldn't give us the answer. We kept asking him, just tell us, just please tell us. And he said, look, if it gets down to 0.5 centimeters, it's at 3 centimeters at the moment. If it gets to 0.5, it's a non-issue. And so me and Ward looked at each other and went, great, that's the goal. And he stormed out there in a huff and puff. And anyway, we focused on it. And about 3 weeks later, he came in again. And, he said, all right, we're going to operate. We've been delaying this so long. I want to operate, And we said, wait, hold the bus. What is the size of the bug? That's the main thing. And again, he wouldn't give it to us. We really had to, mine it out of him. And he goes, oh, fine. All right. It's at 0.2 centimeters. And me and Ward looked at each other and we just were like going nuts. Like, oh my God, I can't believe this actually worked. How the hell did this work? I believed in him. I believed that we were going to give it a good red hot go, but I didn't necessarily believe that it could work. And I often say there is no truth like the truth that you experience. And so for me, that became truth. And he walked out there kind of swearing, upset, at us. And anyway, a couple of weeks later, I was leaving the hospital and I made a really, really good friend in the hospital, this Somalian guy, who's this register. And so he was obviously often sent down from the cardiologist to give me information. And as I was leaving in this wheelchair out of the hospital, he grabbed my shoulder and I looked over to him. I said, hey, mate, I said, I'm going now, but it's been great getting to know you. He said, oh, look, I'm just here to deliver a message. I said, all right, go on. He said, look, Prof just wants me to let you know that your lungs are going to be full of blood. You're going to choke to death in your sleep in about 2 months' time. And, I just started crying. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. So I just, pushed, I waved to the person that was pushing me in the wheelchair. I said, just keep going. Let's get out of here. And so I left. Now, what had happened, Chad, is I got rid of the bug, but my valve had been eaten. Part of my valve had been eaten. So my valve wasn't closing properly. So, blood was pumping in through the atrium. And as it was coming out the ventrium, it was leaking. So my heart was leaking a lot of blood. So it was still very dangerous. Went to a new cardiologist, told him about our previous experience with our cardiologist. He said, look, I play golf with that guy on the weekends. I don't want to, I don't want to hear anything bad about him. And then my family started to arc up and I said, all right, everyone out of the room. I need one person on my side. I just need to find one person on my side. Told him I healed myself naturally. He said, look, I don't believe it. Don't buy it. I went, all right, whatever. Let's just work out what I can do to repair my valve because I didn't want that metal attachment. He said, look, Kyle, you probably got a 30% chance of repairing your valve now. I said, are you serious? In the hospital, they said I had it was a replacement. There was no way of repairing it. He said, look, your heart probably has recovered from the trauma a bit. So I went back to him 3 months later and he said, look, you got about a 50% chance. I went back to him again, with about a year out of hospital. He said, look, you've got about a 70% chance. Now, I really wanted to repair valve, but I really did not want to have the surgery. So I was looking at people in Germany who are doing stem cell research. I was just trying to find out what options do I have, because I realized through this natural health sort of juice diet that healed me that there were other options than what I knew or not what I knew from school, from my upbringing. So, at the end of the day, I realized, all right, the only way to repair this at this moment is through the surgery. Because the valve, it's like your knee, it's like having a torn ligament in your knee. Your valve is constantly working. It's not, say, another part of your body that's not always moving. You can kind of, recover it. So I went in for the surgery. I was playing video games with my friend the night before, just to try and take my mind off it. I was playing paintball a week earlier, just, trying to be as normal as I could mentally, just be just try and forget about it, not put too much thought on open heart surgery because it's a major surgery. And, so the night before I left my mate's place and he said, oh, don't you have that thing tomorrow? I said, yeah. I'll see you later, mate. Closed the door, went, so that's how I was dealing mentally with the situation. And then my grandparents, my angels, they took me into the hospital to have the surgery. And I went in, and 5-hour surgery, they cut your chest open, they cut into your heart. You're pretty much dead for about 5 hours. And then I woke up screaming. I had all these pipes in me. I had everything. I was screaming, but man, I was that focused on succeeding with the repair valve that when I was screaming repair or replacement, repair or replacement, repair or replacement. And someone came over to me and they grabbed my hand, a family member, and they said, Kyle, they repaired your valve. They repaired your valve. And I don't know if I can swear on this
No,
show,
you're
but
good. Let her rip.
and I was like, fuck. I was like, yes, fuck yes. I was going insane. And, I'm in the middle of ICU, so I feel really sorry for everyone else in there. But I was just so stoked that I had a repaired valve, and that I could be given a little bit more of a lease on life. I could be given a little bit more opportunity. And, to finish up real quickly, I had, after that, I had a doctor come over and said, look, you're in a heart block. I said, what does that mean? I was sure that I knew everything that could go wrong. He said, look, heart block is just basically your heart's not beating on its own. And he said, look, give it a week and probably turn around. A week came and he said, look, we're probably going to have an operation. We might have nicked one of the electro signals. And the electro signals is how your heart pumps blood in and out of your heart. And so, I went in, had another surgery, had some wires put in. And then 6 weeks later, there was another incident where I was going for my license. And, I started feeling bloated, and the person that I was with said, all right, we've got to take you to the hospital. You just had heart surgery. We've got to take you to the hospital. So I went to my cardiologist first, and he did an echocardiogram. That's basically like an ultrasound of your heart. And he said, Kyle, you're hours away from dying. And I was like, what? Like, what do you mean? He's like, you need to go to the hospital right now. Like, what the hell? Did you not see a doctor? Did you not see I said, yeah, I saw my doctor, and I went to the local hospital a week ago. He said, what did they do? I said, they did an ECG. And he said, I'm going to sue that place. He said, anybody that has heart surgery needs to have an echocardiogram, because an ECG is just where they put the things, the stickers all over your body. And so they rushed me off to the hospital, and this is another surgery. And I was turned away because I knew it was coming in the surgery, and I was awake for the surgery. And then the surgeon said, Kyle, are you okay? I turned over to him, and he was holding this 20 centimeter bloody needle. I went, Jesus. I went, fuck. I said, can I please get some more morphine? And then the doctor turned to the nurse, and they looked at me, and they kind of went like, oh, geez, this guy's getting a bit keen on the morphine. I was like, no, you don't understand. That needle's gigantic. So basically what had happened is, because the heart had trauma, your heart sits in a wall called a pericardium. And I had developed pericarditis, which basically means that your wall is filling up with blood, and, so your heart can explode pretty much. So they put a needle in and they sucked out blood. They sucked out 2 liters of blood, and the nurses were there in the background holding these sacks of blood. So these bags of blood. So that was my experience. And the thing that I learned from it is that, it's not one and done. I'm in for a surgery, I'm out. It's management for life. Like same thing with your mental management, your physical health, whatever you're doing. Maybe management's not a great word. It's pursuing success.
Yeah, I was gonna say system based.
Yeah, exactly. And you've got to manage that for years and years. And just before 2020 hit, and we all know what happened in 2020. The first few months, I had a surgery coming up, and a procedure, and my heart had gone into atrial fibrillation, which basically means it was beating out of rhythm. And, they were worried about this in terms of my longevity, and they're always thinking about longevity, and they were wanting, what can we do? So I went, you know what? Well, my family would tell me, look, aren't you worried about this virus? You have had a heart disease and all this sort of stuff. And I just went, you know what? I'm going to flip the switch. I'm going to go and do what I did. I healed myself naturally years and years ago. I'm going to go into like military mode, Buddhist mode. I'm going to go run every morning. So I developed this program, listened to this great book from a fellow American over there, David Goggins, Can't Hurt Me, and he got me up in the morning. I was running every morning, juicing, meditating, all this sort of stuff, visualizing, getting the vitamins that I needed, hawthorn, berry, pomegranate, CoQ10, all this sort of stuff, just giving myself the best possible, kick before my next consultation. And the biggest thing I was looking for, Chad, was to change my ejection fraction. Now, ejection fraction is how well your heart pumps blood. It's basically how well your heart works. Mine was around 34%. Once you get to 20 and below, that's when you touch and go. Like you can die and can't go on planes and things like that. So normal people's ejection fraction is around 55, 65. So I did this program for about 4 months, 4 to 6 months. And I had not changed that ejection fraction since for 7-8 years. I had not changed that number. I went back in, had the echocardiogram, and the electrosurgeon was there, and he just sat there. He said, I don't know what to do with you. And I freaked out. I was like, what do you mean? He goes, all your numbers have changed. Like, your heart is now enjoying being in atrial fibrillation. This only happens with 5% of people straight after surgery. Now your heart is way after surgery and it's enjoying atrial fibrillation. Everything is better. Your numbers are up, your heart is stronger, and your ejection fraction's up at 49%. And so I got confirmation once again. And I was like, this is so amazing. And I went, I left there, and, like he was telling me, look, we might as well hit your body with everything it's got, because, this medication's obviously worked. Now, I didn't tell him that I wasn't on the medication for that period. I was just purely going on trying to heal myself, trying to get fit, trying to get physically fit. And so he gave me a list of 6 medications. And I left there with all the scripts, went to the pharmacist, and I had like another moment of God. I kind of was there lining up, and I just had this sort of feeling, and it was kind of like, do I need this? Do I need all these medications? Do I like, is this going to serve me? Is this going to help me? And for me personally, I'm not telling anyone else what to do, but for me personally, it was just managing my heart for longevity and, beta blockers and different sort of things, like a mixture of different medications. And I just had this strong feeling like that God put it back to me and was like, what have you shown? What have you shown? What in your life experience, what have you shown? And I walked out of that shop and I left, and, I didn't turn back, I didn't look back, and I just went, well, I've got to take complete ownership over my health. I can't go for shortcuts. I can't, if I need to take things, I will. If I need to have procedures, I have to have a procedure every 10 years anyway, I will, but everything else is up to me and up to my responsibility. And, as we were talking about earlier, in every single heartbeat, I've got the choice. I can decide, I can choose my own destiny. I can choose what's right for me. I don't have to go with the norm or the popular or the pop culture or whatever it is, or the trend. I can do me. And that's such a liberating thing. I think it's something that I would love every human to realize.
And that's where I insert my favorite saying, where it says dare to be different, and not different artistically, but it means that you're your own individual. So dare to be your own individual. Like I am, you are. Once you're at that stage, I think people are fearing to be that.
Yes. Yeah. With social pressures.
Yeah. So like for me, that's where my saying of dare to be different kicks in, because it's like you have to take the chance to be different. Definitely. So I'm daring you to be different.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And you're right. It's a risk, because we all know social approval and the good feelings that gives us, and feeling a part of society. And yes, you're doing the right thing, but I mean, look at all the greatest people on earth. They've been different. They've gone and went against the grain. They've changed things up. I'm not saying they were total rebels and rebel rousers, but when did history change? It was when someone went, we need to change something. I don't care if you're going to, lock me up or persecute me or frame me or do whatever, but, we need to change to save lives, to help other people. And that's more important than society neglecting me or some guy in a far distant land writing some sort of hate article on me, So that's the thing.
Well, and we're going to end this pretty quick here, because I know you got to go and I got to go pretty quick here. So like for me, I look at it as music's a big thing for me. So I grew up with a lot of music in my house, and I'm going to say some American bands. Obviously you're in Australia, so AC/DC is pretty much right up there. They're like the kings down there. They didn't really shoot mainstream until I got Back in Black, which is a different singer. And the thing like over here, like, I grew up with Van Halen playing all over the place. And Eddie's favorite line is, everyone's like, why don't you play by the book? He goes, I took the book, ripped it up, threw it down. He says, I'm Eddie Van Halen. I'm not the book.
I love that. That's
and I'm
brilliant.
Like, whoa. And it's like the confidence. He's like, I can't be that person in the book, because that's not me.
Yeah.
So that's where that little attitude of me kind of kicks in, where it's like, dude, just be yourself and have fun with it.
Yes, exactly, man. There's not many wiser things you could tell, people listening to this, or being yourself and figuring out who that is, because yeah, all right, it can be a nice saying and all that sort of stuff, but figure out who that is and be that. We need you. We need you with all your gifts, with all your greatness, with all your ideas. We don't need carbon copies.
No. And I will be 100% honest, because we are recording March 15th. My birthday is March 11th, and I am 35 years old, and I still know I'm a work in progress, because every day I need to get better.
Yeah. Yeah. You mate 35, you look pretty bloody young for 35. Good on you.
You get rid of that. I've been sober for a year and a quarter, and also, and I'm a joke with this, but I got rid of my ex-wife. No, it's
you can get started any time in your life, and the most important thing is sustained success. Because if you're a mad surfer for 2 years at 8 and you're like winning awards, but then you go off and you do something else, or you choose a less great life, and you're not fulfilling those obligations of success, whatever that is to you, then what's the point of those 2 years? Their memory. You've got to have sustained success in your life. And sustained success doesn't mean every day I get up and I'm having perfect days. It's like, no, everyone has freaking rough days. Everyone has tough days. Like, you yourself, your routine just gets shifted and shocked and changed around. Some health implication happens, but how are you going to take those burdens, bear those burdens and go, I'm going to keep climbing up the hill. I'm going to keep climbing up the mountain. I think that's the important thing,
Yeah, no. What I'm going to do, man, we call it on our coffee show, we call it toot toot. So like you drop all your shit and kind of just give a little toot toot on it. And then what we're going to do is I think me and you could probably go for another one.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll just bounce schedules back and forth and figure it out. But yeah, no, throw your toot toots in there, man. Not the real ones, but your drops. And we will let everyone know where we can find you.
Awesome. Thanks, mate. I'll get on to I love it. I love how you intro it. So for me, my two toots is you can find me on probably most active is on YouTube or IG, where I post a daily Decide Your Destiny video, so daily inspirational video. So it's Kyle Spyrides, and then the book that's coming out is Decide Your Destiny, and that will be on my website, kylespyrides.com. So spelled Kyle and then Spy, Spyrides. So you can say Spyrides. I mean, I often get that, which is fine. And then my photography business that I run that brings in the bread is Soul Gazing Photography. So yeah, that's me, man.
That is awesome, man. Thank you very much. And we will keep in touch, because I have a feeling we're going to be having another podcast coming down the road here. So
100%, man. And that's the awesome thing about this online world, is that you can create friendships and relationships around the world, and it's just just opens so much up to you.
And thank you, Zoom.
Yes, exactly.
Zoom or StreamYard or whatever. Zen. There's 4 of them out there.
Zencastr. Yeah,
Zencastr. So welcome to the 2021, guys. These are the terms that dropped the last year.
Yeah, exactly. We're slowly getting there.
Yeah. So no. All right, man. You have a good day. Like I said, I am on night here, but enjoy it, man. Thank you very much.